Hey folks, thought I would shoot a different kind of video today. This video is dedicated to the Dolphins. Normally I'm talking about vinyl and CDs and showing vinyl and CDs or showing the goofy cats and but today I want to talk about my Dolphins because it's December 5th and it's 31 years ago was the day that the Dolphins may have saved my life. And a couple years ago, I wrote a blog entry the day the Dolphins saved my life, but I haven't really told that story on this channel, so I thought I would do that today. Um, so a little background leading up to that day in 1977. So first, when I was born, my mom lived in Alexandria, Virginia. So I was actually uh, born in a hospital in Washington, D.C., which was right across the river. But now we left that area before I became aware of football. So I didn't attach myself to the Redskins. What was funny is I was a good sized baby boy, so the doctor told my mom, so I guess he's going to grow up and play for the Packers, which, I like the Packers, but, they're not my team either. So how did I become a Dolphins fan? Well, we were living in Alexandria, and it's kind of funny. This is a football connection as well. We were living in Alexandria kind of in the early 70s, during when the events of Remember the Titans was taking place. And, but, so we were trying to get out of Alexandria because, for reasons I won't go into here. So we came back to Danville, Kentucky. Why Danville? The family was rooted there because when my mom had a younger brother that had contracted meningitis when he was a child and lost his hearing. And so the family was there because that's where the Kentucky School for the Deaf is. So that's what rooted us to Danville. And Danville is a small town in the center of Kentucky. It was the first capital of Kentucky and kind of bills itself as the city first. And still a great town. It's often, I think there have been some magazines and videos on YouTube where Danville has been talked about as being one of the great small towns in America. So that's where I grew up. So how does a Kentucky boy root for the Dolphins? Well, when we first moved there, we were living on a highway in between Danville and Parksville, and I can remember my first school bus ride home. It was very different going from Alexandria. I knew how to walk home from my school in Alexandria to the apartment, or to my babysitters, or to the apartment if I needed to. Out in the country, there were no landmarks for me, so I become panicked and not knowing how to get home. And Joe Gorley, who had become a dear friend, um, you know, he was on the bus. He lived right across the street, and so he came up, calmed down, kind of saved the day, and yeah, we became fast friends, and we were same age. He had a younger brother, Chris, and so I would go over there a lot. And Joe introduced me to football, taught me how to throw a spiral, taught me how to put my fingers on the laces of a football and throw it, introduced me to collecting football cards. We he was a Dolphins fan. I don't know why he and Chris were Dolphin fans. Maybe it was just because they had just won a couple Super Bowls and were popular. Um, I don't know. But so I started watching the Dolphins, and this was in '75. I know this first Super Bowl that I watched was Super Bowl 10, where the Steelers beat the Cowboys and Lynn Swan's doing all these acrobatic catches. And so started watching the Dolphins. And in third grade, my teacher, Miss Sammons, noticed I was squinting at the chalkboard a lot and suggested my parents I get my eyes checked. And then we got glasses. I got glasses. And then shortly after that, Bob Greasy became the first quarterback in the NFL to wear glasses. And that just, pardon the pun, made him the biggest guy in my eyes. Um, yeah, I was a huge Bob Greasy fan from then on, and the Dolphins were my team, and Shula was my coach, and loved them, just loved them. So that was in '75. By '77, this is there was a 3 week period that I'll never forget. Uh, Joe's dad and my stepdad, Jiggs, his real name was Clarence, but he let me call him Jiggs, which was his nickname, so I wouldn't have to call him Dad because I knew my dad. We were just trying not to. I had enough confusion about divorce and all that stuff, so that was helpful. I appreciate him for that. Uh, so anyway, it was Jiggs and Joe's dad both worked for uh, at the same department store in Danville, the biggest. I took up like a block. It's called the Hub Frankel, and the owner, uh, the elder Joe Frankel, great guy, uh, often gave us sports tickets, sporting event tickets. I saw my first Kentucky Wildcat game 4 rows from the floor at Rupp Arena, an experience I'll never forget, thanks to him. And in '77, uh, the Dolphins were playing the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, and Mr. Frankel had tickets. And so Joe and I and his dad, my stepdad, we all went to this game, and it was a great game. Dolphins lost, but it was an amazing game. Dolphins were leading 17-16 in the fourth quarter, and the Bengals quarterback called a brilliant play. He called a flea flicker, and a flea flicker is when, all right, Anderson takes a snap, hands off to the running back. Running back, takes a couple steps up toward the line of scrimmage, turns around and pitches the ball back to the quarterback, Anderson. And what that does is when the defense comes up to stop the run, it allows the wide receiver to get past. And Isaac Curtis, he got past the defense, and Anderson hit him for the game-winning touchdown. And but it was a great game. A little bummed, but I had got to see Bob Greasy live. I was up there waving my horrible hanky. It was an awesome game. So never forget that. That was November 20th, '77. November 24th, Miami went to St. Louis and played the Cardinals. Yeah, the St. Louis Cardinals. And whipped them 55-14. And Bob Greasy tied the NFL record. He threw 6 touchdown passes in one game. One of my favorite games of all time. Love that game. I would love to find a copy of that on DVD because that was such a great game. But then came the big game. Maybe the biggest game for me personally ever. and that would be December 5th, 1977. The Baltimore Colts. Yes, the Baltimore Colts, not Indianapolis yet, came to Miami to play the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Well, I came home that day, boy, and when I look at the odds of everything lining up the way it did, I just can't help but think, man, God's good. Because I came home that day whining and complaining, as a kid normally does. Way I used to anyway. And told my mom I didn't feel good. This was probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And she didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, and I don't blame her. I mean, and for her, she was the typical overprotective, nurturing mother. But, I whined and cried a lot back in those days about not feeling good. I really couldn't tell her why, and I don't guess I had a fever or anything. So there was nothing really to do. And so later, I had permission to stay up on Monday nights when the Dolphins were playing, and as long as I didn't get up the next morning and give her a tough time about getting up to go to school, and I wouldn't, because I wanted to see the Dolphins the next time they played on Monday Night Football. So I had permission to stay up and watch the game. So I'm watching it with my stepdad, and we get to halftime. Let me tell you about my stepdad. My stepdad was a good guy, but he was also old school. You see all the commercials a couple years ago where dude gets hurt and Peyton Manning saying, "Rub some dirt on it." Well, my dad was a rub some dirt on it guy back when Peyton Manning was just a tadpole in Archie's quarterback factory. So, anyway, I got up. Now, mind you, he was watching the game, so I guess it would have been alarming, just the fact that I'm turning off his football game while he's watching it at halftime to get his attention. But it wasn't just that. I turned off Bob Greasy and the Miami Dolphins at halftime and walked over and told him, I don't feel good. And he decided, there's something wrong with this boy. And so he went and told my mom, said, we probably need to take him in. And so we loaded up in his Chevy Love. And we were out in the country, so it took a minute. By then we were in a different house, but it was still way out there. So we went on into town, went to Ephraim McDowell. It amazes me what they can do just by looking at your blood. So they drew blood and could tell that I had acute appendicitis. And so yeah. Now, the next thing they did was kind of dumb. I was alone in the room. My mom was filling out paperwork, and dude comes in and says, yeah, we're going to do surgery. Now, why you would tell an 11-year-old you're getting ready to do surgery, I was scared half to death. I went out of the room yelling for mom. Jigs came around the corner and calmed me down. And next memory I've got is they had me on the stretcher, and they're doing the IV and can't get a vein, and which even today, if I go to the hospital, a lot of times they have to stick me several times to get a vein. But Georgie Arnold happened to walk in that night. She was a nurse there, and but she was also, I don't know if technically she was related to me or not. She was my Uncle Lee's uh, mother, but my Uncle Lee I was related to him by marriage. Um, he was married to my mom's sister. So anyway, well, we were family. I mean, she always treated me like family. So, but she come in and hit it first shot, and so it wouldn't be until I guess probably by midnight or 1 o'clock I was under the knife, and I wouldn't even know the score. I wouldn't know that the Dolphins actually won that game, and they did 17-6. They won that game. I wouldn't know that until the next day. Um, but yeah, I just am amazed at the way the events had to line up, because a couple of years ago I checked that schedule, and that was the only night that the Dolphins played Monday Night Football that year. So what kind of odds did it take for, if that's what it really took to get my parents' attention, for me to be able to communicate something that I'm having trouble knowing exactly what's wrong with me, um, what kind of odds did it take for that to happen on that night, and for me to turn off that TV and get his attention like that? It's really kind of amazing. And like I said, it may be a little bit of hyperbole to say that it saved my life, but did it? Is that hyperbole? Because I don't know what the mortality rate is for surviving that if your appendix burst, especially back in '77. I had a buddy that had his appendix burst, and he was deathly ill, and probably almost died from having his appendix burst. So, did the Dolphins save my life that night? I I am awfully appreciative that that game occurred the way it did. Thank God above that that he put that together for me, and and that I didn't wasn't any sicker than what I was, because it was a smooth surgery. My recovery was smooth. It just, you can have dialed it up better than that. So, all right. Well, I will close here. Uh, Jake's up there snoozing. I'm sure Aretha's around here somewhere, getting into trouble. In fact, she's so quiet. Maybe I better find her. But hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great December 5th. Hope it runs really smooth for you. So have a good one, and we'll see you later.